This is a questionable reality production.
Hello, I'm Senator Crowns, and this is AP Post History. Now let's get started. Today we'll be covering topic 2.7, the last one of Unit 2, if you can believe it. And the subject of this topic is the TXDOT cult and other threats to the Salmonite. In the last topic, the Salmonites established a type of democracy, so to say, but a very fragile one. The government had a shaky foundation, and feelings of political unrest were abound, as so often happened. One day, Mustafa Dyke received a vision in his sleep of Salmonites being consumed within itself and utterly destroyed. The visions of sorts had a prompting of fleeing the lands of the Salmonites and out into the great wilderness around him. You may be confused how a new great wilderness has developed. Well, just remember the salmon seas were draining exponentially quicker, and no one really has been bothering to explore during this time. Exploring is less fun with war and stress at home, if you know what I mean. Mustafa gathered his sons, their wives, and headed out into that wilderness. Though some of his sons would have a penchant for murmuring, Mustafa deduced what must have been a sign to settle, an old TXDOT manhole cover. And for those not privy to this information, much like Mustafa, I guess you just lose out. No, I'm kidding. The TXDOT is the Texas Department of Transportation, but of course this information had long faded since the apocalypse. And from this old sewer hatch, the TXDOT Society would develop a healthy lore surrounding the lost TXDOT order. And yes, people did begin to flock to the TXDOT. The Salmonites, upon learning of this society, deemed it a pressing threat and naturally labeled the TXDOTs as a cult. The Salmonites would go on to invest an exorbitant amount of military hardware, empty rhetoric, and a lot of time to this supposed non-threat. In fact, let's turn to a special double History Maker segment featuring Mustafa Dyke explain the TXDOT's relationship to the Salmonites, and Major General Simolikis on the Salmonites' relation to the TXDOT cult. I bear no grudge to the Salmonites, only sorrow for their impending destruction. I forgive them for their attacks against my people. However, the Salmonites have lost their way, and that is undeniable. And such comes from their despicable behaviors. The words of Capistranus are distorted to legitimize whoever may need it, while the salmon is reduced to a mere trinket. I urge for correction, but I know that they are lost. The TXDOT cult is a fundamental threat to the Salmonite and the Salmonite way of life. Those strange men, they bloodlet babies, I hear. And then from their blood they make abstract expressionist art with it, with zero salmon in this art. They gallivant about in their odd land, scheming and plotting, while worst of all they vote in voting blocks. In order to preserve our sacred salmonists, the TXDOT must be eliminated. It's important to note, for contrast purposes, that the TXDOT cult did not do much terrorizing in return. However, this whole affair saw the triumphant return of discrimination and oppression of minorities. Something so inescapable about human organizations. Progress? The Samnites faced other threats beyond the, as I've expressed, unreal threat from the TXDOTs, but carrying onward. Another move of progress towards recalling the old ways of the pre-apocalyptic era was the revival of ineffectual and corrupt politicians, such as President Pronounceable of the RPSM party, who did eventually find his way into power. And during his time in the office, He appointed his son David as vice president, while he had the utter audacity to make his wife the first lady of the nation. Can you believe that? That's ridiculous. And corrupt. Very, very corrupt. There was also the bout of selling government assets for his own personal gain and, massacring the occasional protesting village. Progress! While other politicians actively participated in terror organizations or attempted to sing national anthems in front of large public audiences, which is just terrible and awful and should never be done by anybody unless they're a professional singer. And money inflation also ran amok. Now, this is not inflation when the nominal value of a given product increases without any real changes to warrant such a price increase, but simply that money itself was just inflating up like a balloon. It was something about how they were made. It was quite an odd choice, really, but it did run amok. As this weird inflated money is not very usable, and people had to be incredibly cautious not to pop their banknotes. In fact, there are none on display in any post-historical museum of just how poppable they were. Whole families just saw their entire life savings go up like balloons, and they either flew up into the sky where they were never retrieved, or it's just very hard to bring 1,000 balloon-like things anywhere with you. But I digress. And in the respect of my audience, I will forego mentioning the dangerous disco dance craze and accompanying poor fashion trends, given how contentious and divisive this particular topic remains today. Of course, if you so desire, you may do research into it of your own, but for us, it is just not very important and hardly worth the great division it so incurs. And that's it. Topic 7 of Unit 2 is complete. If you want to find success in your post-history class and oppress the TXDOT society, consider subscribing and liking this video. My goal is to see each and every one of you get a 92 in your class and a 7 on the AP test in Quintober. Alright, Xander Crowns checking out.